The phone rang 3 times before Sophie Chen answered, her voice distant over the clatter of lunch rush dishes. "Tony's Diner, this is Sophie." Your daughter stopped breathing. The words came from an unfamiliar male voice, low and urgent, cutting through the kitchen noise like a blade. Sophie's hand froze halfway to wiping down table 7, her blood turning to ice. "What? Who is this? Where's, Riverside Park, southeast corner by the fountain." She collapsed. "I'm doing rescue breaths now, but you need to call 911 and get here. Fast." The line went dead. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. Sophie's tray hit the floor with a crash that made every head in the diner turn. She was already running, ripping off her apron, her purse forgotten, her only thought the image of her 5-year-old daughter Lily gasping for air. "Sophie, what the hell?" Tony shouted from behind the counter. "My daughter, Park, can't breathe." The words came out in gasps as she shoved through the door, the November wind hitting her face like a slap. She ran. 3 blocks felt like 3 miles, her worn sneakers slapping against concrete, her lungs burning. She should have driven, but her ancient Corolla was parked 2 streets over, and every second mattered. Every single second. Lily had been fine that morning, laughing over chocolate chip pancakes, excited about the puppet show at the library. Mrs. Garcia, their neighbor who watched Lily after kindergarten, had promised to take her to the park if the weather held. But Lily's asthma had been getting worse. The inhaler wasn't working as well anymore. Sophie had an appointment with a specialist next month, but the earliest she could get with her insurance was December 15th. She'd been counting down the days, praying nothing happened before then. Her prayers had run out. Sophie rounded the corner to Riverside Park, her vision blurring with tears and terror. She saw the fountain, saw a small crowd gathered, saw a man kneeling on the grass, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing an expensive black coat that didn't belong in this neighborhood. His hands moved with practiced precision on Lily's small chest. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Lily's lips were blue. "No, no, no, no." Sophie crashed to her knees beside them, reaching for her daughter with shaking hands. The man caught her wrist, his grip firm but not painful. His eyes were dark, almost black, and completely focused. "Don't move her. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. I need you to tell me, does she have asthma?" "Yes. Her inhaler, it's at home. I didn't think she was just going to the park. Allergies? Peanuts. But she knows not to. There's a vendor selling roasted peanuts 50 feet away." His voice was calm, clinical, but Sophie heard the edge beneath it. The controlled fury. Your babysitter let her run around unsupervised. She probably got too close, inhaled the particulates, triggered an attack. He returned to compressions. His movements were too smooth, too practiced. This wasn't the first time he'd done this. Sophie's hands hovered uselessly over Lily's body, afraid to touch, afraid not to. Her baby looked so small on the grass, her favorite purple jacket unzipped, her dark hair spread around her head like a halo. "Come on, little one," the man murmured, his voice dropping to something almost gentle. "Breathe for me. Come on." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder. 30 compressions, 2 breaths. 30 compressions, Lily gasped. A horrible, rattling sound that was the most beautiful thing Sophie had ever heard. Her eyes flew open, wide and terrified, and she started crying, which meant she was breathing, which meant she was alive. "There you go." The man sat back on his heels, his hand still hovering near Lily in case she needed him again. "That's it, nice and easy. You're okay now." Sophie pulled Lily into her arms, sobbing into her daughter's hair. "Baby, oh my God, my baby." The paramedics arrived in a flurry of equipment and urgent questions. Sophie answered on autopilot while they strapped an oxygen mask over Lily's face and checked her vitals. Severe asthma attack, possible anaphylaxis from airborne allergen exposure, but stable now. They needed to transport her to Chicago Memorial for observation. "I'm coming with you," Sophie said, climbing into the ambulance. "Ma'am, we need to. I'm her mother. I'm coming." The paramedic looked like he might argue, but something behind Sophie made him nod quickly. She turned to see the man in the expensive coat standing at the ambulance doors, his expression hard. "Let her ride with the child," he said quietly. It wasn't a request. The paramedic swallowed. "Yes, sir. Of course, sir." As the ambulance doors closed, Sophie caught one last glimpse of the stranger. He stood perfectly still among the dispersing crowd, his dark coat whipping in the wind, His eyes locked on hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. Then the ambulance pulled away and he disappeared from view. 4 hours later, Sophie sat in a plastic chair beside Lily's hospital bed, watching her daughter sleep. The crisis had passed. Lily's oxygen levels were normal. The steroids were working. The doctor said she could go home in the morning if there were no complications. Sophie should have felt relief. Instead, she felt the crushing weight of everything she'd been holding at bay. The ambulance ride cost $800. The emergency room visit would probably run $3,000 after insurance. The specialist appointment she'd been waiting for was now urgent, which meant finding a way to pay the $200 consultation fee up front instead of making payments. Her shift at Tony's Diner paid $11 an hour plus tips. She worked 6 days a week, sometimes pulling doubles when Tony let her. Last month, she'd made $2,100. Rent was $1,200. Utilities, $150. Lily's current medications, $90. Groceries. Internet for Lily's remote kindergarten days. The phone bill that kept getting shut off. The numbers didn't add up. They never added up. And now this. Sophie pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting tears. Crying wouldn't help. Crying never helped. She needed a plan. Maybe pick up that weekend shift at the coffee shop. Maybe sell her laptop. Maybe a knock on the door made her look up. The man from the park stood in the doorway, still wearing his expensive coat, still radiating that same controlled intensity. In the fluorescent hospital lighting, Sophie could see him more clearly. Mid-30s, maybe. Dark hair swept back from a face that was all sharp angles and hard lines. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. Everything about him screamed danger and money in equal measure. "How is she?" he asked. Sophie stood, putting herself between the stranger and her sleeping daughter on instinct. "She's stable. Thank you for what you did. I don't know how do you even..." She struggled to find words. "You saved her life. I did what needed doing." He stepped into the room, and Sophie fought the urge to step back. He moved like a predator, all controlled grace and coiled power. "The babysitter? Mrs. Garcia. She's been watching Lily for 2 years. This has never happened before. She was on her phone when your daughter collapsed, scrolling through social media while a 5-year-old with a known peanut allergy played unsupervised near a peanut vendor." His voice was flat, emotionless, which somehow made it more terrifying. "That's negligence." Sophie's hands clenched into fists. I know that, but I can't afford." She stopped herself. This stranger didn't need to hear about her financial problems. "I'll find someone else, someone better. You work at Tony's Diner, 6 days a week, usually the lunch and dinner shift. You make roughly $2,100 a month. Your rent is $1,200. You're a single mother. No family in the area. No child support coming in." The room suddenly felt very small. Sophie's heart hammered against her ribs. "How do you know that?" "I make it my business to know things." He pulled a business card from his coat pocket and held it out. "Especially when someone becomes important to me." Sophie stared at the card like it might bite her. "Important? I don't even know your name." "Dante Russo." He set the card on the bedside table when she didn't take it. "And you became important the moment I had to restart your daughter's heart." "I don't understand." "You will." Dante looked at Lily, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. "She looks like you. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. Mr. Russo, Dante." "Dante?" Sophie corrected, her voice shaking. "I'm grateful. I am. But I don't understand why you're here, or how you know so much about me, or what you want." "What I want," Dante said quietly, "is to make sure this never happens again. That little girl deserves better than a negligent babysitter, and a mother working herself to death trying to pay for inhalers that barely work." Sophie's spine straightened. "I'm doing the best I can. I know you are. That's why I'm here." He moved toward the door, then paused. "The ambulance bill and hospital fees have been taken care of. So has the specialist appointment she's seeing Dr. Sophie Chen tomorrow at 10 a.m. One of the best pediatric pulmonologists in Chicago. No charge." Sophie's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "The card has my number," Dante continued. "When you're ready to discuss Lily's future and yours, call me." "I don't want your money," Sophie managed to say. Dante smiled, and it transformed his entire face for just a moment, made him look almost human. Everyone says that. Then they realize what I'm actually offering isn't money. It's safety, security, peace of mind. His expression hardened again. "Think about it. You have my number." He walked out, his footsteps silent on the hospital linoleum. Sophie stood frozen for a long moment, staring at the empty doorway. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Then she looked at the business card. Black cardstock. No company name, no title, just a phone number embossed in silver. And on the back, written in bold handwriting, "She's safe now. Keep her that way." Sophie didn't call. She told herself she wouldn't, couldn't, shouldn't get involved with a man like Dante Russo. A man who knew too much, moved too smoothly, and paid hospital bills like they were pocket change. A man who'd appeared at exactly the right moment to save Lily's life, then appeared again at the hospital like he had every right to be there. A man who was clearly dangerous in ways Sophie didn't want to understand. But she kept the card. She kept it in her pocket during her shift the next day, feeling its weight like a promise or a threat. She kept it when Mrs. Garcia apologized profusely, tears streaming down her face, swearing it would never happen again. Sophie had smiled tightly and told Mrs. Garcia they'd figure something out, knowing she'd never leave Lily with her neighbor again. She kept the card when she took Lily to see Dr. Chen, who examined her daughter thoroughly and prescribed a new inhaler, a nebulizer for home use, and a detailed action plan for managing severe attacks. The bill came to $0. Sophie had tried to argue, but the receptionist just smiled and said, "It's already been handled, Mr. Russo's account." She kept the card when she picked up the prescriptions, and the pharmacist handed her bags full of medications without asking for payment. When she tried to give him her insurance card, he waved her off. "Already processed. You're all set." She kept the card for 3 days, feeling it burn in her pocket like a coal. On the 4th day, Tony pulled her aside during her shift. "Sophie, we need to talk." Her stomach dropped. She couldn't afford to lose this job. Not now. Not with the medical bills that would inevitably come. Regardless of what Dante Russo thought he'd paid for, Tony's office was cluttered with invoices and restaurant supply catalogs. He gestured for her to sit, then perched on the edge of his desk, looking uncomfortable. "You've been with me for 3 years," he started. "You're a good worker, reliable, never complain. But," Sophie's hands twisted in her lap, "but I got a visit yesterday, from some men. They made me an offer I really couldn't refuse." Tony wouldn't meet her eyes. "They want to buy the diner. Offered me 3 times what it's worth. I'd be an idiot to say no." Sophie's heart sank. "So you're selling. I'm selling. New owners take over in 2 weeks. Tony finally looked at her, and she saw genuine regret in his face. "I tried to negotiate, keeping the current staff, but they've got their own people. I'm sorry, Sophie. I really am. I'll give you 2 weeks severance, but after that, I'm out." Sophie finished, her voice hollow. "I'm sorry," Tony said again. Sophie walked out of his office in a daze. She finished her shift on autopilot, smiling at customers, taking orders, pretending her world wasn't collapsing. That evening, after putting Lily to bed, Sophie sat at her tiny kitchen table and did the math. 2 weeks severance would give her maybe $800. Without her job, she had nothing. She'd applied to 3 other diners already, but they were all either not hiring or wanted her to start immediately, which she couldn't do while serving out her notice at Tony's. Her phone sat on the table beside her, next to the black business card. "She's safe now. Keep her that way." Sophie picked up the phone, put it down, picked it up again. She thought about Lily's new inhaler, the nebulizer sitting in their bathroom, the specialist appointment scheduled for next month to reassess her treatment plan, all paid for by a man she'd met once, a man who'd saved her daughter's life and then inserted himself into their lives like he belonged there, a man who somehow managed to get Tony's diner sold right after she'd refused his offer. Sophie's hands shook as she dialed. He answered on the first ring. "Sophie, how did you know I'd call?" Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "Because you're smart enough to recognize when you're out of options." No judgment in his tone, just fact. "And because you love your daughter more than you fear me." "I'm not afraid of you." "You should be." A pause. "But you're not. That's why this works." Sophie closed her eyes. "Did you buy Tony's diner?" "Yes." The blunt honesty surprised her. "Why?" "Because you needed to understand something. I don't make idle offers, Sophie. When I say I'm going to take care of something, I take care of it. Completely. By destroying my life, by removing obstacles." His voice was calm, maddeningly reasonable. "You were barely surviving. working a job that paid you poverty wages while your daughter's health deteriorated. Now you have a choice. You can scramble to find another diner job that will pay you just as little, leave Lily with another inadequate babysitter, and pray nothing goes wrong. Or what? Sophie demanded. Or you accept my help. Real help. Not charity, not a handout, a position, a purpose. What kind of position? Come to my home tomorrow, noon. I'll explain everything. He paused. Bring Lily. I want to see how she's doing. I don't even know where you live. The car will pick you up at 11:30. Don't bring anything except what Lily needs for a few hours. And Sophie? His voice dropped lower. I know you're scared. I know this seems insane. But I swear to you, on everything I am, that I will never hurt your daughter. She's the reason we're having this conversation. She matters to me. Why? Sophie whispered. Why does she matter to you? You don't even know her. Silence stretched across the line. Then, so quietly she almost missed it. Because I know what it's like to lose a child, and I'm not going to let it happen again. Not if I can prevent it. The line went dead. Sophie sat in her dark kitchen, the phone pressed to her chest, and tried to understand what she'd just agreed to. The car that arrived at 11:30 the next morning was a sleek black SUV with tinted windows and a driver who looked like he could bench press her entire apartment building. He introduced himself as Vincent and helped her load Lily's emergency bag inhaler, nebulizer, EpiPen, the works into the trunk with the careful respect of someone who understood exactly what those items meant. Lily, for her part, was thrilled. She bounced in the leather back seat, eyes wide as she took in the luxury interior. Mommy, this car is like a spaceship. Look, there's TVs in the seats. Don't touch anything, Sophie warned, but Vincent caught her eye in the rearview mirror. She can watch whatever she wants. Mr. Russo's orders. Kids should be comfortable. They drove north, away from Sophie's neighborhood of chain-link fences and corner stores, into areas where the houses grew larger and the gates grew higher. Lily pressed her nose to the window, gasping at each mansion they passed. Finally, they turned through iron gates that opened automatically, revealing a circular driveway and a house that looked like something from a movie. 3 stories of stone and glass, with manicured gardens and a fountain featuring marble angels. Wow, Lily breathed. Is this a castle? Close enough, Vincent said, pulling to a stop. The front door opened before they could knock. Dante Russo stood there, wearing dark slacks and a crisp white shirt rolled up to his elbows. Less intimidating than in his coat, but no less intense. His eyes went immediately to Lily. Hello, little one. I'm glad to see you looking better. Lily, normally shy with strangers, smiled at him. You're the man who helped me breathe. Mommy said you saved my life. Your mother's right. Dante crouched down to her level, his movements careful. How are you feeling? Good. The doctor gave me a new inhaler. It's purple. Do you want to see? I'd love to see. Dante's expression softened in a way that made Sophie's chest tight. He listened intently as Lily showed him her inhaler, explaining very seriously how she had to use it twice a day now, and how the doctor said she was being very brave. Finally, Dante looked up at Sophie. Come inside. We have a lot to discuss. The inside of Dante's home was even more impressive than the exterior. Sophie tried not to gawk as they walked through a marble foyer with a chandelier that probably cost more than she'd earn in 5 years. Oil paintings in gilded frames lined the walls. The furniture looked antique and expensive, the kind of thing you weren't supposed to touch, let alone sit on. Lily had no such reservations. She skipped ahead, her light-up sneakers squeaking on the polished floors, pointing at everything. Mommy, look! That vase is taller than me, and that painting has a horse with wings. Lily, careful, Sophie started, but Dante held up a hand. Let her explore. Nothing here is more valuable than a child's curiosity. He led them through a series of rooms to a sunlit conservatory overlooking the gardens. Floor-to-ceiling windows, comfortable furniture arranged around a low table, and Lily gasped a bookshelf filled with children's books and toys. I took the liberty of preparing some things, Dante said, watching Lily make a beeline for a stuffed elephant that was nearly her size. I wasn't sure what she'd like, so I got variety. Sophie stared at the display. Books, puzzles, art supplies, dolls, building blocks, easily thousands of dollars worth of toys, all pristine and new. You did this overnight? I made a phone call. Dante gestured to one of the chairs. Please sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Tea? Answers. Sophie said. But she sat. You said this wasn't charity. So what is it? Dante settled into the chair across from her, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp. A proposition. I need someone I can trust. You need stability and resources. I'm offering you a position in my household. What kind of position? Officially, household manager. You'd oversee the domestic staff, manage schedules, handle day-to-day operations of the estate. He paused. Unofficially, I need someone who understands what it means to protect a child at all costs. Someone who will prioritize safety over convenience, kindness over formality. Sophie's brow furrowed. You have a child? Something flickered across Dante's face. Pain, carefully controlled. I did. A daughter, Alessia. She would have been 8 now. The past tense landed like a stone. Sophie's hands tightened in her lap. I'm so sorry. She had a severe peanut allergy, similar to Lily's. Dante's voice was steady, but Sophie heard the cracks beneath. 3 years ago, her nanny gave her a cookie without checking the ingredients. Alessia went into anaphylactic shock. I was in a meeting. By the time I got to the hospital, he stopped, swallowing hard. She was gone. Sophie's throat closed. She looked at Lily, happily playing with the elephant, alive and breathing and perfect. That's why you knew what to do in the park. I learned everything too late to save my own daughter. But I could save yours. Dante met her eyes. When I saw Lily collapse, when I started CPR, all I could think was, not again. I can't watch another child die when I have the power to prevent it. So this is about guilt. Sophie's voice was gentle, not accusatory. You're trying to save Lily because you couldn't save Alessia. Maybe. Dante didn't deny it. Or maybe I'm trying to prevent another parent from living through what I lived through. Watching your child die while you stand helpless. His jaw tightened. You were 3 blocks away when Lily stopped breathing. What if I hadn't been there? What if no one had known CPR? What if Mrs. Garcia had panicked and called you before calling 911? Sophie felt sick. Don't. You need to understand what's at stake. Lily's condition is serious. It requires constant vigilance, immediate access to medical care, and caregivers who actually pay attention. Dante leaned forward. I'm offering you a life where you don't have to choose between paying rent and buying medicine. Where Lily has the best doctors, the best equipment, the safest environment, where you can actually breathe instead of drowning. It sounded too good to be true. Sophie had learned long ago that when something sounded too good to be true, it usually was. What's the catch? The catch, Dante said carefully, is that I'm not a good man, Sophie. I've done things that would horrify you. I operate in a world where violence is currency and trust is a liability. People want to hurt me, which means they'll try to hurt anyone close to me. You're talking about the Mafia. Sophie's voice dropped to a whisper. I'm talking about organized crime, yes. I'm the head of the Russo family. We control half of Chicago's South Side. We have legitimate businesses and less legitimate ones. He didn't flinch from the truth. If you and Lily live here, you'll be under my protection. But you'll also be under scrutiny. People will talk. They'll assume things about our relationship, about why you're here. Some of those assumptions will be dangerous. Sophie's heart hammered. You're saying we'd be targets. You're already a target. Dante's voice hardened. The moment I paid Lily's hospital bills, the moment I bought Tony's diner, you became connected to me. My enemies will have noticed. They always notice. Then why did you do it? Sophie demanded, anger flaring through her fear. If it puts us in danger, why involve us at all? Because leaving you unprotected would be worse. Because my enemies are thorough, and they'll investigate anyone I show interest in. Because the safest place for you and Lily is right here, where I can see you, where my security can watch over you, where no one can touch you without going through me first. Dante's eyes burned with intensity. I didn't choose this, Sophie. But now that it's happening, I'm going to handle it the only way I know how. Completely. Sophie looked at Lily, who'd moved on from the elephant to a set of wooden building blocks. Her daughter was humming softly, constructing what looked like a castle, her new purple inhaler sitting beside her like a talisman. Safe, happy, oblivious to the impossible choice her mother was facing. If we say no? Sophie asked quietly. If we walk away? Then I'll provide security anyway. Guards you won't see, but who be? Watching. I'll pay for Lily's medical care from a distance. Make sure you find a good job with flexible hours and decent pay. Dante's voice softened. But you'll be alone, Sophie. Carrying everything by yourself like you have been. And if something happens, another attack, Another emergency, I might not be there in time. The weight of it pressed down on Sophie's chest. You're saying I don't really have a choice. You always have a choice, but I'm asking you to choose the option where your daughter survives. Dante stood, moving to the window. I know what I'm asking is insane. Trust a stranger. Move into his home. Let him into your life. It goes against every instinct you have. Then why should I do it? Dante turned back to her. Because 3 days ago, I held your daughter's life in my hands, and I chose to save her. Not because it benefited me, not because I wanted something from you, but because I couldn't live with myself if I let her die. His voice roughened. That has to count for something. Sophie stood and walked to where Lily played, crouching down beside her. Baby, what are you building? A castle. Lily showed her the wooden structure, complete with towers and a gate, for the princess to live in, so she's safe from the dragon. That's beautiful, sweetheart. Sophie kissed the top of her daughter's head, breathing in the scent of her strawberry shampoo. Do you like it here? Lily nodded enthusiastically. It's like a fairy tale. And Mr. Russo is nice. He talks to me like I'm big, not like I'm a baby. Sophie looked up at Dante, who watched them with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not quite longing, not quite pain, something in between. Can I have some time to think about it? Sophie asked. Of course. Stay for lunch. Let Lily play. We can discuss the practical details. Dante moved toward the door. I'll have the kitchen prepare something. Any allergies I should know about besides peanuts? None. We're not picky eaters. After he left, Sophie sat on the floor beside her daughter, helping her build the castle while her mind raced. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. You didn't move in with a mafia boss, no matter how charming or helpful he seemed. You didn't put your daughter in the crosshairs of organized crime. But the desperate part of her brain, the part that had been drowning for 5 years, whispered, what if he's right? What if this is the only way to keep Lily safe? She thought about going back to their apartment. 1 bedroom, thin walls, mold in the bathroom. She thought about scrambling to find another job, another babysitter, another way to make the numbers add up. She thought about the next emergency, the next crisis, the next phone call that started with, your daughter stopped breathing. Mommy? Lily touched her arm. Are you sad? Sophie blinked back tears. No, baby, just thinking. About living in the castle? Lily's eyes were wide and hopeful. Could we really stay here? It's so pretty. And Mr. Russo said there's a garden with butterflies in the summer. He told you that? Uh-huh. When you were looking at the paintings, he showed me the window and pointed to where the flowers will be. He said his daughter used to chase butterflies. Lily's voice dropped to a whisper. He looked really sad when he said it. Sophie pulled Lily into her lap, holding her close. How do you feel about Mr. Russo? Does he seem nice? He's nice. And sad. Like you sometimes, when you think I'm sleeping, and you cry in the kitchen. Lily twisted to look up at her. Maybe we could make him less sad. Like how you make me less sad when I have bad dreams. Out of the mouths of babes. Lunch was served in a dining room that could have seated 20 people but felt intimate with just the 3 of them at one end of the long table. The staff who brought the food were professional and polite, treating Lily with the same respect they showed. The adults. Lily chattered happily about her kindergarten class, her teacher Miss Rosa, her best friend Emma, who also had asthma. Dante listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he was actually paying attention. Do you like school? He asked. Mostly. Except when the other kids run too fast and I can't keep up. Lily pushed her chicken around her plate. My inhaler helps, but sometimes I still get too tired. Dr. Chen is going to help with that, Sophie said. The new medication should make it easier. And you'll have plenty of space to run here, Dante added. The gardens are safe, and there's a play area I'm having installed next week. Swings, a slide, monkey bars, all the things kids like. Lily's face lit up. Really? For me? For you. Dante's smile was genuine. If you decide to stay. After lunch, Lily fell asleep on one of the conservatory couches, exhausted from excitement and the lingering effects of her attack. Sophie covered her with a soft blanket and followed Dante to his study. The room was all dark wood and leather, with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a massive desk that looked like it had witnessed countless deals, both legal and otherwise. Dante poured himself a whiskey and offered her one. Sophie declined. The practical details, Dante began, settling into a chair. If you accept, you and Lily would have your own suite. 3 bedrooms, private bathroom, living area. Fully furnished, but you can change anything you want. Staff quarters are separate, so you'd have privacy. What about Lily's school? She can continue at her current school if you prefer. I'll arrange transportation. Or I can get her enrolled at Wellington Academy. It's private, expensive, and has a full-time nurse on staff. Small class sizes, better for children with medical conditions. Sophie bit her lip. I can't afford private school. You're not paying for anything. That's the point. Dante's tone was matter-of-fact. Salary is $60,000 a year, plus room and board. All of Lily's medical expenses covered. Full health insurance for both of you. Car provided. You'll have 2 days off per week. Negotiable schedule. $60,000 a year. Sophie made $25,000 at the diner. She could barely breathe around the number. That's too much for a household manager. It's exactly right for someone I trust with access to every part of my life. Someone who'll be living in my home, managing my staff, knowing my schedule. Dante swirled his whiskey. And it's hazard pay, if we're being honest. There are risks to being associated with me. What kind of risks? Surveillance. People taking your picture, trying to figure out who you are and why you matter to me. Possible threats, though my security team is excellent at prevention. Questions from law enforcement, though you won't have any illegal knowledge to share. He met her eyes. I won't lie to you, Sophie. This life isn't normal, but it's safe, and it's stable, and your daughter will have everything she needs. Sophie walked to the window, looking out at the gardens. She could see where the playground would go, could imagine Lily laughing as she went down the slide, breathing easily with her new medication, surrounded by security and care. Why me? She asked quietly. You could hire anyone, someone with experience managing estates, someone who already understands your world. Because you ran 3 blocks in the cold without a coat when you thought your daughter was dying. Because you didn't hesitate, even though you were terrified. Because when I told you what I am, you didn't run away, you asked about the risks to Lily, not to yourself. Dante's voice softened. Because you remind me of my wife, Elena. She was a kindergarten teacher. Kind, fierce, completely devoted to our daughter. She would have liked you. What happened to her? Car accident. A year after Alessia died. Dante's expression went blank, the way it did, when he was hiding pain. I think she couldn't bear living without our daughter. I think she stopped being careful. She was crossing the street and... He stopped, shaking his head. It doesn't matter, they're both gone. And I've spent 3 years building walls to make sure I never feel that kind of loss again. Until you saw Lily in the park. Until I saw Lily in the park, he agreed. And suddenly all those walls didn't matter because a child was dying and I wouldn't let it happen again. Sophie turned to face him. I need to know something. This isn't about replacing them, is it? Lily and me. We're not substitutes for your wife and daughter. No. Dante's answer was immediate and firm. You're not substitutes. You're not replacements. He struggled for the word. You're a second chance. For me to do something right. To protect, instead of fail. To use my resources for something good instead of just maintaining power. That's a lot of pressure to put on a 5-year-old and her broke mother. I'm not asking Lily to heal me. I'm asking to keep her safe while you figure out how to build a life that doesn't require you to choose between rent and medicine. Dante stood. Think about it tonight. I'll have Vincent drive you home. Tomorrow, if you want to accept, call me. If you want to refuse, call me anyway, and I'll set up the security I mentioned. Either way, you're not walking away unprotected. Sophie collected a sleepy Lily and let Vincent drive them back to their apartment. The building looked smaller and shabbier than ever after seeing Dante's estate. She carried Lily upstairs, tucked her into bed, and then sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea she didn't drink. The black business card sat in front of her. She'd worn the edges smooth from carrying it in her pocket for days. She's safe now. Keep her that way. Sophie picked up her phone. Put it down. Picked it up again. She thought about Dante's face when he'd mentioned his daughter. The way his voice cracked on Alessia's name. The careful way he'd talked to Lily, like she was precious and breakable and worth protecting. She thought about his words. People will assume things about our relationship. That part worried her. Not because she cared what strangers thought, but because she needed to be clear about boundaries. This was a job. She was a household manager, not a romantic interest. Dante had lost his wife 3 years ago. He was clearly still grieving. The last thing either of them needed was complications. But Lily needed safety. medicine, a life where she could run and play without constant fear. And Sophie, God, Sophie was so tired. Tired of scrambling, of never having enough, of the constant low-grade panic that one emergency would destroy everything. She looked around her apartment, at the water stain on the ceiling that maintenance had never fixed, at the windows that didn't quite close all the way, at the radiator that clanked and hissed, but barely produced heat. Then she thought about the conservatory with its sunlight and books and toys, the gardens where butterflies would come in summer, the suite with 3 bedrooms, the security that meant no more lying awake, worried about break-ins or fires or any of the 1,000 things that could go wrong. Sophie picked up her phone and dialed. Dante answered on the first ring. "Sophie, I have conditions," she said. "I'm listening. This is a job. Employer and employee. Whatever people assume about us, that's not what this is. I need you to be clear about that with your staff, your associates, everyone." "Agreed. I want my own bank account. The salary goes to me, I manage it. No joint accounts, no strings attached to the money." "Of course. And if anything happens, if your world becomes too dangerous for Lily, we leave. No arguments, no trying to convince me to stay. We walk away and you let us go." Silence for a moment. "Then, I won't let you walk into danger. But if you decide this isn't working, yes, you can leave. I'll make sure you have resources to start fresh somewhere safe." Sophie closed her eyes. "One more thing. Lily's father, Marcus. He's not in our lives. He pays child support sometimes, has supervised visitation twice a year that he usually cancels. I don't want him knowing where we are. He won't find you. I'll make sure of it." Dante's voice hardened. "If he tries to contact you, I need to know immediately." "Okay." Sophie took a deep breath. "Okay. We'll do it. We'll move in." "When? Is this weekend too soon?" "This weekend is perfect." She could hear the relief in his voice. "I'll send Vincent tomorrow to help you pack. Take only what matters to you: clothes, photographs, personal items. Everything else, furniture, dishes, we'll replace." After hanging up, Sophie sat in the dark kitchen and tried to understand what she'd just done. She'd agreed to move herself and her daughter into the home of a Mafia boss. To live in his world. To trust him with their safety. It was insane. It was necessary. And somewhere deep in her chest, beneath the fear and the uncertainty, was the tiniest spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this could work. Maybe they really would be safe. Maybe Lily could have the childhood she deserved, full of laughter and play instead of hospitals and fear. Maybe Sophie could finally stop drowning. She looked at the black business card one more time, then tucked it into her wallet. She had a feeling she'd need to keep it close. The next 2 days passed in a blur of packing and goodbyes. Sophie gave notice to her landlord, who barely seemed to notice she was leaving. She called Wellington Academy and enrolled Lily for Monday, her stomach twisting at the tuition cost that she wasn't paying. She packed their lives into boxes, not many, it turned out. Clothes, books, photos, Lily's stuffed animals. Everything else was just stuff, easily left behind. Mrs. Garcia cried when Sophie told her they were moving. "I'm so sorry about what happened. I should have been watching closer. I'll never forgive myself." "I know," Sophie said gently. "But Lily's okay. We're okay. And we need a fresh start." She didn't tell Mrs. Garcia where they were going. Didn't tell anyone except the school. Let people think she'd found a better job. Moved to a better neighborhood. Let them fill in the blanks themselves. On Saturday morning, Vincent arrived with a moving truck. Lily bounced with excitement, chattering to Vincent about her new room, her new school, the butterflies she'd see in summer. Vincent listened patiently, loading boxes with the help of 2 other men Sophie didn't recognize. As they pulled away from the apartment building, Lily pressed her face to the window. "Bye, old house. Thanks for keeping us warm." Sophie's throat tightened. Even in leaving poverty behind, her daughter found something to be grateful for. They drove through Chicago's changing neighborhoods, from run-down to working class to affluent. Lily pointed out everything: a dog walker, with 5 dogs, a street musician playing violin, a flower shop with buckets of roses outside. Finally, they turned through the iron gates of Dante's estate. Lily gasped. "Mommy, we really do live in a castle now." The front door opened before Vincent could park. Dante stood there in jeans and a dark sweater, looking less intimidating than Sophie had ever seen him, almost approachable. "Welcome home," he said. Home. The word landed strangely. This wasn't home. This was a beautiful cage, a gilded arrangement, a transaction. But as Lily ran up the steps and Dante crouched to her level, asking about her favorite toy that he'd have placed in her room, Sophie thought maybe, just maybe, it could become something more. "Your suite is ready," Dante told Sophie. "Mrs. Chen, the house manager, will show you everything. She's been with me for 10 years. You can trust her." A woman in her 50s appeared, wearing a crisp black dress and a warm smile. "Miss Sophie, Miss Lily, welcome. Let me show you to your rooms." The suite was on the second floor, overlooking the gardens. 3 bedrooms like Dante had promised, one for Sophie, one for Lily, and a smaller room that could be an office or guest room, a spacious bathroom with a soaking tub, a living area with comfortable furniture and a TV, windows that actually closed, heat that worked. Lily's room was a dream. Twin bed with a canopy, bookshelves already filled with children's books, a desk for homework, soft carpet, and in the corner, every toy from the conservatory, carefully arranged. "Mr. Russo wanted to make sure you felt welcome, Mrs. Chen said. "If you need anything adjusted, just let me know." "It's perfect," Sophie whispered, watching Lily explore with wide eyes. "Mommy, look! There's a window seat! I can read here." Lily climbed onto the cushioned bench beneath the window. "And I can see the whole garden," Mrs. Chen smiled. "Mr. Russo thought you might like that. He had that built this week." Sophie looked at her sharply. "He had it built? For Lily? He's been preparing your suite since the day you met. He wanted everything ready in case you said yes." Mrs. Chen's expression softened. "He's a good man, Miss Sophie. I know what the world says about him, but he's good to the people he cares about. And for some reason, he cares about you and your daughter very much." After Mrs. Chen left, Sophie sank onto the living room couch, while Lily unpacked her stuffed animals in the next room. She could hear her daughter singing, happy and carefree. A knock on the door. Dante stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets. "Is everything acceptable?" "It's more than acceptable. It's incredible." Sophie stood. "Thank you. For all of this. Thank me by keeping yourself and Lily safe. That's all I ask." He glanced toward Lily's room, where singing drifted out. "She sounds happy." "She is. This is like a dream for her." "Good." Dante met Sophie's eyes. "Dinner is at 6 in the main dining room. Casual, just the 3 of us. But if you'd rather eat here tonight, I understand. It's your first day. No pressure." Sophie thought about it. They could hide in their suite, ease into this new life slowly, or they could jump in, establish the routine, make this feel normal as quickly as possible. "We'll come to dinner," she said. "Lily should get used to the house." "To you? And you?" Dante's voice was quiet. "Do you need to get used to me? I'm already used to you. You're the man who saved my daughter and then turned my life upside down. I'm getting used to that version of you." Sophie managed a small smile. "The question is whether you're used to having us here." "I'm not," Dante admitted. "This house has been empty for 3 years. Just me and the staff. It's been quiet. Controlled." He looked toward the sound of Lily's singing. "I'd forgotten what it sounds like when a child is happy. I'd forgotten it could sound like anything other than grief." Sophie's heart twisted. "Dante, 6 o'clock, he said, stepping back. "I'll see you then." He walked away, and Sophie stood in the doorway of her new home, listening to her daughter sing and wondering what exactly they'd just walked into. Dinner was surprisingly normal. Lily charmed the kitchen staff by asking to see where her food came from, so Dante gave her a tour while Sophie watched. He introduced her to Antonio, the head chef, who showed her the walk-in refrigerator and let her pick which vegetables would go in the salad. "You have good taste," Antonio told Lily solemnly. "Tomatoes and cucumbers, excellent choice." They ate at one end of the long dining table, close enough to talk, far enough that it didn't feel cramped. Lily told Dante about her first day at Wellington Academy on Monday, how she was nervous but excited. "Miss Rosa says I'll make new friends. And there's a library, a whole room just for books." "You like reading?" Dante asked. "Love it. Mommy reads to me every night. Right now we're reading about a girl who goes to a magic school. I have a library here. Tomorrow I'll show you. You can borrow any book you want." Lily's eyes went wide. "Really? Any book? Any book?" Dante smiled at her enthusiasm. "Maybe you can help me organize them. They're a bit of a mess." After dinner, Sophie gave Lily a bath and tucked her into bed. The new room, the new sounds, should have made it hard for her to sleep. But Lily was out in minutes, exhausted from excitement. Sophie stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching her daughter breathe. Easy, steady, safe. A soft knock made her turn. Dante stood in the hallway, keeping his distance, respecting the space. Is she settled? Fast asleep. Sophie stepped into the hall, pulling the door mostly closed. She loves her room, the window seat especially. Good. Dante hesitated then. I need to tell you something. About tomorrow. Sophie's stomach dropped. What about tomorrow? Some of my associates are coming by. Business meeting. They'll see you and Lily here. His jaw tightened. They'll ask questions, make assumptions. I'll handle it, but I wanted you to be prepared. What kind of assumptions? That you're my mistress. That I've taken you and your daughter in for reasons that aren't purely charitable. Dante's voice hardened. They'll be crude about it. They'll treat you like you're a possession. I need you to understand that's how they see the world. Sophie crossed her arms. And how do you see me? Dante looked at her for a long moment. Like someone brave enough to save their daughter by trusting a monster. Like someone who deserves better than what I can offer, but who I'm selfish enough to want nearby anyway. He stepped back. Get some sleep. Tomorrow might be difficult. He walked away, leaving Sophie standing in the hallway wondering what exactly she'd agreed to. And whether she'd made the biggest mistake of her life. Sophie woke to sunlight streaming through windows that actually opened without sticking, in a bed with sheets that didn't smell like the laundromat's cheap detergent. For a confused moment, she didn't know where she was. Then memory crashed back Dante's estate, their new suite, the impossible choice she'd made. She checked her phone. 6:30 a.m. Through the wall, she could hear Lily still sleeping, her breathing steady and even. No coughing, no wheezing. The new medication was working. Sophie dressed quietly and ventured out of the suite. The house was already awake. She could hear movement downstairs, smell coffee brewing. She followed the scent to a kitchen that looked like something from a cooking show. All stainless steel and marble countertops. Antonio was already at work, chopping vegetables with practiced efficiency. He looked up and smiled. Miss Sophie, good morning. Coffee? Please. And just Sophie is fine. He poured her a cup from an espresso machine that probably cost more than her old car. Mr. Russo is in the gym. He usually works out from 5 to 7, then has breakfast at 7:30. Would you and Miss Lily like to join him? I don't want to intrude on his routine, he asked specifically. Antonio returned to his chopping. He said he'd like to establish a morning routine with you both. Structure is good for children, yes? Sophie sipped her coffee, rich and perfect and considered. Dante was right that Lily thrived on routine. And if they were living here, they needed to figure out how to coexist. We'll be there. 7:30. She went back upstairs to wake Lily, who was already up and staring out her window seat at the gardens. Mommy, there's a bunny, a real bunny eating the grass. I see him. He's very cute. Sophie sat beside her daughter. How do you feel? Any trouble breathing? Nope. I feel good. Lily demonstrated by taking a deep breath. See? All the way in. Good girl. Now let's get you dressed. We're having breakfast with Mr. Russo. Lily's face lit up. Really? In the big dining room? That's right. So let's pick out something nice. They made it downstairs at 7:28. Dante was already at the table, showered and dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, reading something on his phone. He looked up as they entered and his expression softened. Good morning. I hope you both slept well. I dreamed about butterflies, Lily announced, climbing into the chair beside him. And bunnies. There's a bunny in the garden. Did you know? I did. His name is Sebastian. He lives under the rose bushes. Dante set down his phone, giving Lily his full attention. Are you excited about your new school tomorrow? Nervous and excited. What if the other kids don't like me? They'll like you, Dante said with certainty. You're smart and kind and you know all about books. Those are the important things. What if I have an asthma attack? Sophie tensed, but Dante handled it smoothly. Then the school nurse will help you. She's very good at her job, and your teacher will know what to do. And if anything serious happens, the school will call your mom and me, and we'll be there in minutes. He leaned closer to Lily. You're not alone anymore, little one. You have a whole team of people making sure you're safe. Lily considered this. Like the Avengers? Exactly like the Avengers, except with more medical equipment and fewer explosions. Lily giggled, and Sophie felt something in her chest ease. Whatever else Dante was, he was good with her daughter. Patient, kind, genuine. Breakfast was scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, and toast. Lily chattered about what books she wanted to find in the library. Dante listened and offered suggestions he'd read more children's literature than Sophie expected. "My daughter loved stories about magic," he said quietly. "We read together every night. It was our thing." "What was her favorite?" Lily asked. Sophie tensed, worried the question was too painful, but Dante smiled. "The one about the girl who could talk to animals. She made me do all the different animal voices. I was terrible at it, but she'd laugh anyway." "I bet you weren't terrible," Lily said loyally. "Can you show me?" So Dante did a frog voice that was, indeed, pretty terrible. Lily laughed so hard she snorted, which made her laugh harder. Sophie watched them and felt tears prick her eyes. This was what Lily had been missing, a father figure. Marcus had never bothered, even when they'd been married. But Dante, this dangerous man with his careful walls, was giving her daughter something precious. Attention, safety, joy. After breakfast, Dante showed them the library. It was 2 stories tall with a rolling ladder and thousands of books organized by genre. Lily gasped and immediately started pulling volumes from the children's section, stacking them in her arms until she could barely see over them. "You can take as many as you want," Dante told her. "There's a reading nook in the corner with good light." He showed Sophie his office next, a serious room with heavy furniture and enough technology to run a small country. "This is where I work. The door is always locked when I'm not here. I need you to respect that boundary. There are things in here that are safer if you don't know about them." "Understood." Sophie studied the security cameras, the monitors, the safe built into the wall. "Is this where you'll meet with your associates today?" "Yes, at 2 o'clock. I'd prefer if you and Lily stayed in your suite during the meeting." "Why? If I'm going to be household manager, shouldn't I know how to handle visitors?" Dante's jaw tightened. "These aren't normal visitors. They're men who operate in violence and fear. I don't want them anywhere near Lily, and I don't want them getting ideas about you." "Ideas like what?" "Like that you're available. Like that you're a weakness they can exploit. Like that—" He stopped himself. "Just trust me on this. Stay upstairs until they're gone." Sophie wanted to argue, but the intensity in his eyes stopped her. "Okay, we'll stay upstairs." "Thank you." Dante glanced at his watch. "I have some calls to make. Mrs. Chen can show you the rest of the house if you'd like. Or you can explore on your own. You're not a prisoner here, Sophie. This is your home now." Except it didn't feel like home. It felt like a very nice hotel where she was still learning the rules. At 1:45, Sophie and Lily were in their suite. Lily was sprawled on the living room floor with her library books, reading about a mouse who wanted to be a knight. Sophie stood at the window, watching the front gates. Right at 2 o'clock, 3 black SUVs pulled through. Men in expensive suits climbed out, moving with the same predatory grace as Dante. Sophie counted 7 of them. They disappeared into the house. "Mommy, what are you looking at?" Lily asked, not looking up from her book. "Just the garden, baby. Keep reading." 30 minutes passed, then an hour. Sophie tried to focus on organizing their belongings, but her mind kept drifting. What were they discussing down there? What business required this much security and secrecy? At 3:15, raised voices filtered up through the floor, not quite yelling but close. Sophie froze, listening. She couldn't make out words, just tone angry, confrontational. Then silence. Then footsteps in the hall. Sophie moved to the door just as it opened. Dante stood there, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked shaken. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled, and something dark stained his right hand. Blood. "Is that—" Sophie started. "It's handled." His voice was flat. "But I need you and Lily to pack a bag. Just essentials. We're leaving in 10 minutes. Sophie's stomach dropped. "What happened?" "One of my associates thinks I've gone soft. Thinks bringing you here was a sign of weakness." Dante's eyes were cold, empty. "He made threats. Against you. Against Lily. I handled it, but his brother won't let it stand. We need to move you somewhere safe until this is resolved. You said we'd be safe here. You are safe here, but safer somewhere else for the next few days." Dante looked past her to where Lily was watching with wide eyes. "Trust me, Sophie. Please. I won't let anyone hurt her. But we need to move. Now." Sophie had been in enough emergency rooms to recognize triage when she saw it. You could argue about the diagnosis later. Right now, you treated the immediate threat. "Lily, put your books in your backpack, quick as you can." "But Mommy—" "Now, baby. They packed in 7 minutes. Clothes, medications, Lily's stuffed elephant. Sophie's hands shook as she zipped the bags, but she kept her face calm for Lily's sake. Dante led them down the back stairs, avoiding the main areas of the house. Vincent waited by a different SUV than usual. This one-armored Sophie could tell by how it sat low on its wheels. Vincent will take you to a safe house in Lake Forest, 20 minutes north. I'll follow in an hour after I clean up this mess. Dante opened the door, checking the street before letting them approach the vehicle. There are guards already positioned at the house. You'll be safe. What about you? Sophie asked. Something flickered in his eyes. I'm always safe. I'm the one people should be afraid of. He helped Lily into the back seat, buckling her in with careful hands. Then he turned to Sophie, lowering his voice. I'm sorry. I thought I had more time before this happened. Thought I could ease you into this world. But Carlo forced my hand. The man who made threats, he won't make any more. Dante's voice was ice. But his family will retaliate. That's how this works. Action, reaction, blood for blood. I'm not letting you and Lily be part of that cycle. Sophie studied his face. The blood on his hand. The cold determination in his eyes. Did you kill him? No. But I made sure he understood what happens to people who threaten children in my care. Dante stepped back. Go. Vincent knows what to do. Sophie climbed into the SUV, pulling Lily close. As they pulled away from the estate, she watched Dante through the rear window. He stood perfectly still in the driveway, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who'd just declared war. Mommy, I'm scared, Lily whispered. I know, baby, but we're safe. Mr. Russo is making sure we're safe. Is he going to be okay? Sophie thought about the blood on his hand, the emptiness in his eyes, the way he'd said I handled it like it was nothing. I don't know, she admitted. I really don't know. The safe house was smaller than the estate, but no less secure. 2 guards positioned at the gate, cameras covering every angle, windows that Sophie suspected were bulletproof. Vincent walked them through the house, showing them where everything was, making sure they understood the security protocols. Don't answer the door for anyone except me or Mr. Russo, he said. Don't go outside without telling the guards first. If you hear anything unusual, there's a panic button in every room, red button on the wall. Press it and we come running. This is like a spy movie, Lily said, trying to sound brave. It's like a very boring spy movie where nothing happens, Vincent told her gently. That's the goal. Boring and safe. He left at 4:30, promising to return with dinner at 6. Sophie and Lily explored the house, finding a kitchen stocked with groceries, a living room with a TV, 3 bedrooms upstairs. Everything they might need for an indefinite stay. Lily was quiet during dinner takeout that Vincent brought from a place Sophie didn't recognize. She picked at her chicken fingers, normally her favorite, and kept glancing at the windows. Are bad people coming? She finally asked. Sophie set down her fork. She'd been dreading this question, trying to figure out how to answer honestly, without terrifying her daughter. Some people are upset with Mr. Russo. They might try to cause trouble. But that's why we're here, away from his house, where they won't think to look for us. Because they want to hurt him? Sophie's stomach clenched. How do you know that? I'm not a baby, Mommy. I know Mr. Russo isn't a normal person. I know he does dangerous things. Lily's voice was matter of fact. But he saved me, and he's keeping us safe. So I think he's a good person even if he does bad things sometimes. Out of the mouths of babes, Sophie pulled Lily into her lap. You're very smart, you know that? I know. Lily snuggled closer. Are we going back to the castle? I hope so, when it's safe. Good. I left my favorite books in the library. They spent the evening watching animated movies, trying to pretend this was normal. Lily fell asleep during the second one, and Sophie carried her upstairs to the largest bedroom. She tucked her daughter in, then stood at the window, staring out at the dark grounds. Somewhere in Chicago, Dante was dealing with the aftermath of whatever had happened. Somewhere, men were planning retaliation. Somewhere, violence was breeding more violence in the endless cycle he'd described, and she and Lily were caught in the middle of it. Sophie's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It's Dante. New phone. Untraceable. Are you settled? She typed back. Yes, Lily's asleep. Are you okay? The response came quickly. I'm fine. Carlo is in a hospital with both kneecaps shattered. His brother Pietro is predictably furious. I'm working on a solution. Sophie's hands shook as she typed. What kind of solution? The permanent kind. Don't worry about it. Focus on keeping Lily calm. I'll come see you tomorrow. Don't kill anyone on our account." The response took longer this time. "I won't kill anyone, and who doesn't force my hand. That's the best I can promise." Sophie set down the phone and pressed her palms against her eyes. 24 hours ago, she'd been having breakfast with Lily and Dante, laughing about frog voices. Now they were in a safe house, while he planned someone's murder. This was the world she'd agreed to enter. The world of action and reaction, violence and retaliation, where children had to be hidden away and men like Dante made terrible choices to protect the people they cared about. Sophie thought about leaving, packing their bags right now, calling a taxi, disappearing into the city before Dante came back. She had some savings. She could find another job, another apartment. They could go back to struggling, but at least they'd be struggling without the threat of Mafia retaliation hanging over their heads. But then she looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully, breathing easily. She thought about the medications that were finally working, the school that could accommodate her needs, the security that meant no more lying awake, worried about break-ins or fires or any of the countless dangers that came with poverty. She thought about Dante kneeling in the park, his hands on Lily's chest, counting compressions with absolute focus. "Come on, little one. Breathe for me." He'd saved her daughter, and now he was trying to keep them safe in the only way he knew how. Sophie texted back, "Be careful. Please. Always. Get some sleep." She didn't sleep. She stayed awake in a chair by Lily's bed, listening to her daughter breathe, and wondered if she'd made a deal with the devil or just a man who'd been through hell and was trying his best not to drag anyone else down with him. Dante arrived at 10 the next morning, looking like he hadn't slept. Dark circles under his eyes, tie missing, shirt sleeves rolled up, but he smiled when Lily ran to hug him, and Sophie saw genuine relief in his face. "How's my favorite reader?" "Worried about you." Lily pulled back to look at him. "Did the bad people hurt you?" "No, little one. They didn't hurt me." Dante crouched to her level. "And I made sure they won't hurt you either. You're safe. I promise." "Okay." Lily seemed satisfied with this. "Can we go back to the castle soon? I miss my window seat." "Soon. Maybe tomorrow. I'm still making sure everything is secure." He looked up at Sophie. "Can we talk? Privately?" Sophie followed him to the kitchen while Lily settled in the living room with a coloring book one of the guards had found for her. Dante poured himself coffee with hands that were steady but had bruises on the knuckles. "Pietro's agreed to a sit-down," he said without preamble. "Tonight. Neutral territory. We're going to resolve this before it escalates further." "How do you resolve someone trying to hurt us?" "By making it clear that you're under my protection, and anyone who touches you answers to me personally. By explaining that Carlo's threats were a violation of our code, you don't target women and children. Ever. By offering compensation for his medical bills and ongoing care." Dante's jaw tightened. "And by making it very clear what happens if Pietro doesn't accept these terms, which is war, which neither of us wants, which neither of us can afford, and which will end with a lot of people dead on both sides." He met her eyes. "I'm trying to avoid that. For your sake, for Lily's sake, and for the sake of dozens of families who'd get caught in the crossfire." Sophie leaned against the counter. This is exhausting." "Yes." "Is it always like this? Threats and retaliation and sit-downs?" "Mostly it's boring. Paperwork and meetings and legitimate business. But when someone challenges you, when someone shows disrespect, you have to respond or you look weak. And weakness gets you killed." Dante rubbed his eyes. "I thought I could bring you into my life without this happening. Thought my reputation would be enough to keep you safe. I was wrong. So what now? Now I fix it permanently." He straightened. "After tonight's meeting, one way or another, this ends. Either Pietro accepts my terms, or I make an example of him that no one will forget. But you and Lily will be safe. That's not negotiable." Sophie studied him. This man who'd saved her daughter and upended their lives. This man who was willing to go to war to protect them. "You really mean that? Every word." Dante's voice was absolute. "I've lost enough people I care about. I'm not losing you too." The words hung in the air between them. People I care about. Not just Lily. Both of them. "Dante, I know what you're going to say. This is just a job. You're the household manager. We have a professional relationship." He smiled sadly. "You keep telling yourself that if it helps. But the truth is, somewhere between CPR in the park and frog voices at breakfast, you both became important to me, and I protect what's important. That's a lot of pressure. I'm not asking you to love me back. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to keep you safe. Dante moved toward the door. The meeting is at 8 tonight. If it goes well, I'll pick you up tomorrow morning and we'll go home. If it goes badly. He stopped. Vincent has instructions. You'll be moved somewhere even more secure. New identities if necessary. Whatever it takes. You're talking like you might not make it back. I'm talking like a man who understands risk. Dante paused in the doorway. If something happens to me, there's a lawyer in the city named Sarah Huang. Vincent has her number. She has documents that will ensure you and Lily are taken care of. Money, property, everything you need. Sophie's chest tightened. Don't talk like that. I have to talk like that. It's the only way to make sure you're protected no matter what. He looked at her one more time, his expression unguarded. Take care of my little reader. Tell her I'll see her soon. Then he was gone, and Sophie stood in the empty kitchen, trying not to think about what if something happens to me meant. The hours crawled by. Sophie tried to keep Lily distracted with games and coloring and reading, but her own anxiety leaked through. She kept checking her phone, even though Dante wouldn't be texting during a sit-down with the man whose brother he'd crippled. At 7:30, Lily asked, "Is Mr. Russo coming back tonight?" "Probably not, baby. He has important business." "The scary business." "Yes. I hope he wins." Lily returned to her coloring book, adding purple to a dragon's wings. "He's good at winning." Sophie prayed she was right. At 8:15, Vincent appeared at the door. His face was grim. "We need to move you." Sophie's heart stopped. What happened? The meeting went bad. Shooting. Mr. Russo is alive, but he needs medical attention and he can't go to a hospital. We're bringing him here where Dr. Romano can treat him. Vincent was already gathering. Their things. You and Lily need to be upstairs, out of sight. The situation is contained but volatile. How bad is he hurt? Bad enough. Gunshot to the shoulder, possible cracked ribs, but he's conscious and giving orders, so that's a good sign. Vincent herded them toward the stairs. Stay in the bedroom. Don't come out until I tell you. Understand? Sophie nodded numbly, pulling Lily upstairs. She heard vehicles arriving, male voices, the controlled urgency of people trying to move fast without causing panic. "Mommy, what's happening?" Lily's voice was small, scared. Mr. Russo was hurt, but a doctor is going to help him. Sophie held her daughter close, listening to the sounds below. Footsteps, a groan of pain, orders being given, then quiet. 30 minutes passed, 45. Sophie paced the bedroom while Lily huddled on the bed, clutching her elephant. Finally, a soft knock. Vincent opened the door. "He's asking for you." Sophie's heart hammered. "Both of us? Just, Lily should stay here with one of the guards." "I'm not leaving her." "Sophie." Vincent's voice was gentle but firm. "He needs to see you. He's refusing treatment until he knows you're okay. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Sophie looked at Lily. "Baby, I need you to stay here with Mr. Vincent. I'm going to check on Mr. Russo. I'll be right back." "Is he dying?" "No, sweetheart. He's going to be fine." Sophie followed Vincent downstairs to a bedroom that had been converted into a makeshift medical bay. Dante lay on the bed, shirtless, his shoulder wrapped in bloody bandages. An older man in wire-rimmed glasses, Dr. Romano, presumably was cleaning instruments on a side table. Dante's eyes found hers immediately. "You're safe." "I'm fine. You're the one who's been shot." Sophie moved closer, cataloging his injuries with her nurse's eye. The shoulder wound looked serious but not fatal if treated properly. The bruising on his ribs was extensive. "What happened?" "Pietro brought guns to a sit-down. Against every rule we have. He was planning to kill me, claim self-defense, and use my death to take over my territory." Dante's voice was strained. "He didn't count on my men being faster." "Is he dead?" "Yes. 3 of his men, too. It's..." He coughed and winced. "It's done. No more threats. The other families are already reaching out to confirm they had nothing to do with this. By morning, you'll be the safest woman in Chicago, because everyone will know what happens to people who target you." Sophie sank into a chair beside the bed. "You could have been killed, but I wasn't." Dante reached for her hand with his good arm. "I kept my promise. You and Lily are safe. At what cost? Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes." His grip tightened. "I'd do it again. Every time. For you. For her. For..." He stopped, his expression softening. "For my family." Sophie's breath caught. "Family." He'd called them family. Mr. Russo, Dr. Romano interrupted. I really need to get to close this wound properly, which means you need to stop talking and let me work. 5 more minutes, Dante said, not looking away from Sophie. You have 2. The doctor's tone brooked no argument. Then I'm sedating you whether you like it or not. Dante smiled slightly. Bossy for someone I pay. I'm bossy because you pay me to keep you alive. Dr. Romano prepared a syringe. 2 minutes. Say what you need to say. Dante squeezed Sophie's hand. Take Lily back to the estate tomorrow. Everything is secure. The threat is neutralized. You can... He paused, struggling with something. You can leave if you want. I'll understand. This is too much to ask of anyone. Are you giving me an out? I'm giving you a choice. The one I should have given you from the start. His voice dropped to barely a whisper. Stay or go. I'll make sure you're provided for either way. But if you stay, I need you to understand this is my life. Violence, danger, difficult choices. It won't always be breakfast and frog voices. Sometimes it'll be nights like tonight. Sophie looked at this man, this complicated, dangerous, protective man who'd been shot defending her and her daughter, who'd declared war to keep them safe, who'd built them window seats and filled libraries with books and made Lily laugh for the first time in months. I need to think about it, she said honestly. That's fair. Dante's eyes were already getting heavy from whatever sedative the doctor had slipped him. Think about it. Decide. I'll respect whatever you choose. Time's up. Dr. Romano moved in with professional efficiency. Out, Miss Sophie. I need to work. Sophie stood, but Dante's hand caught hers one more time. Thank you, he murmured, words slurring, for running 3 blocks, for trusting me, for being brave enough to... His eyes closed, the sedative taking hold. To what? Sophie whispered, but he was already unconscious. Dr. Romano began working on the shoulder wound, his movements precise. He'll be fine. Bullet went clean through. He's lucky. Is he? Sophie asked. Lucky? The doctor looked up, his expression knowing. 3 years ago, after his wife died, Mr. Russo told me he had nothing left to live for. Just business and revenge and empty rooms. He returned to his stitching. Tonight when I arrived, he was giving orders to protect you and your daughter before he'd let me touch him. That's not a man with nothing to live for. So yes, I'd say he's lucky, even if he doesn't realize it yet. Sophie went back upstairs, her mind spinning. She found Lily asleep on the bed, exhausted from fear and adrenaline. Sophie lay down beside her, pulling her close, and stared at the ceiling. This was insane, all of it. Living with a mafia boss, hiding in safe houses, watching him be carried and bleeding from a gunfight. This wasn't the life she'd imagined for herself or her daughter, but it was the life where Lily could breathe easily, where they had security and resources, where a man looked at them like they were the most important people in his world, where they were family. Sophie closed her eyes and tried to imagine walking away, going back to studio apartments and struggling to pay rent, back to juggling jobs and babysitters, and constant fear that the next emergency would destroy them. She couldn't do it, couldn't go back to that life. Not when she'd tasted what stability felt like. But more than that, and this was the part that scared her, she couldn't imagine walking away from Dante. From his careful smiles and his fierce protection and the way he'd looked at her tonight like she was his anchor in a storm. People I care about, he'd said. And somewhere along the way, without meaning to, Sophie had started caring too. The next morning, Dante was awake but groggy, his shoulder heavily bandaged and his arm in a sling. Doctor, Romano had stayed the night to monitor him, but declared him stable enough to be moved. You're an idiot for not going to a proper hospital, the doctor said, packing his equipment. But you'll live. Rest for 3 days minimum. No heavy lifting. Come see me next week to check the stitches. Thanks, Romano. Thank me by not getting shot again. The doctor left, shaking his head. Sophie found Dante in the living room, dressed in loose sweatpants and a button-up shirt he clearly couldn't fasten properly with one arm. He looked up when she entered, and something vulnerable flickered across his face. How are you feeling? She asked. Like I got shot, but alive, so that's a win. He tried to smile and winced. Where's Lily? Still asleep. I wanted to talk to you first. You've decided. Not a question. Yes. Sophie sat down across from him, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. I'm staying. We're staying. Relief flooded his expression. You're sure? No. I'm terrified. This is the craziest thing I've ever done. Sophie met his eyes. But I'm also sure that Lily is healthier and happier than she's been in years. I'm sure that you'd take a bullet for her, for both of us, without hesitation. And I'm sure that whatever this is between us, it's worth the risk. Whatever this is, Dante repeated softly. I don't know what to call it. You're not my employer, not really. You're not my boyfriend, we've never even kissed. But you're not just a friend either. Sophie struggled for words. You're the man who saved my daughter and then saved me. And I think I'm the woman who's supposed to save you back. I don't need saving. Yes, you do. Sophie's voice was gentle but firm. You've been drowning for 3 years, Dante. Building walls and pushing people away and living in a house that feels like a mausoleum. But when Lily laughs at your terrible frog voices, when she asks if you're okay, when she calls your house a castle, you come alive. You remember what it feels like to be human. Dante looked away, his jaw tight. That's not fair, to her. Using a child to fill the hole my daughter left. You're not using her. You're loving her. There's a difference. Sophie moved to sit beside him on the couch. Alessia would want you to be happy. Your wife would want you to live, not just survive. And I think we might be able to help each other figure out what that looks like. I can't promise it'll be easy. I don't want easy. I want real. Sophie took his hand, careful of his injuries. I want a life where my daughter has everything she needs, where I don't have to choose between medicine and rent, where someone has our backs, and maybe where we have someone's back too. Mine. Yours. Sophie smiled. Someone needs to make sure you don't get yourself killed. Might as well be me. Dante laughed, then winced and pressed his hand to his ribs. Don't make me laugh. It hurts. Then stop being funny. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Dante said, I need to tell you something. Last night, when Pietro pulled the gun, my first thought wasn't about dying. It was about you and Lily. About not being there to protect you. About leaving you alone. His voice roughened. That's how I know this isn't just guilt or trying to replace my family. You've become something different. Something new. Something I didn't know I needed. Sophie squeezed his hand. What are we doing, Dante? Honestly, I have no idea, but I'd like to figure it out. Together. Together, Sophie agreed. Upstairs, they heard Lily wake up, her small voice calling for Sophie. Dante smiled. Your daughter needs you. Our daughter, Sophie corrected softly. If we're doing this, if we're being family, then she's ours. Not in a way that replaces her father or your daughter. Just she's ours to protect, ours to love, ours. Dante's eyes shone with something that might have been tears. Ours, he repeated, testing the word. I like that. Sophie stood and headed for the stairs, then paused. By the way, you're terrible at buttoning shirts one-handed. Let me help before we go home. Home, Dante said. Yeah, let's go home. They returned to the estate that afternoon. Lily was thrilled to be back, immediately running to the library to collect the books she'd missed. Dante moved slowly, his shoulder clearly bothering him, but he smiled as he watched her go. She's resilient, Sophie said. Like her mother. Dante settled carefully into a chair. I need to warn you, the news is going to report on what happened last night. A shooting at a restaurant. 4 dead, including Pietro Moretti. My name will probably come up. There might be reporters. I can handle reporters. There might also be police. I've already spoken with my lawyers. We have alibis, witnesses, everything covered. But they might want to talk to you, ask questions about living here. What do I tell them? The truth. You're the household manager. You live here with your daughter. You have no knowledge of my business dealings. Dante met her eyes. They can't touch you, Sophie. You're not involved in anything illegal. You're exactly what you appear to be, a single mother I hired because I needed help running the estate. Is that really what I am? Sophie asked quietly. To the police? Yes. To everyone else? Dante smiled. You're the woman who ran into my life and refused to leave even when things got dangerous. You're the person who makes my house feel like a home. You're stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. You're mine, if you'll have me. Not in any legal sense, just you're mine to protect, mine to care for. Mine. Possessive, Sophie observed. Completely. No apology in his voice. I don't know how to be any other way. I guess I better get used to it then. That evening, they had dinner as a family, Sophie, Dante, and Lily at one end of the long table. Dante let Lily cut his food since he couldn't manage it one-handed, and she took the responsibility, very seriously. Like this, Mr. Russo? Small pieces? Perfect. You're a natural caretaker. Mommy says I get it from her. Lily beamed. Because she's a nurse and nurses help people. Your mother is very good at helping people. Dante agreed, his eyes on Sophie. After dinner, Sophie helped Dante change his bandages while Lily watched a movie in the conservatory. The wound looked clean, no signs of infection. Doctor, Romano had done good work. You're lucky the bullet went through, Sophie said, applying fresh gauze. I'm lucky Vincent saw Pietro reach for his gun before he got it all the way out. I'm lucky my men were positioned where they were. I'm lucky. Dante caught her hand. I'm lucky you stayed. Where else would I go? Sophie secured the bandage with tape. You've got the best library in Chicago, and my daughter is already planning which books to read next. I'm trapped. Horrible fate. Truly terrible. Sophie smiled, then grew serious. Dante, this thing with Pietro, is it really over? No one's gonna come for revenge? It's over. Pietro violated every code. We have brought guns to a sit-down, targeted women and children, acted without his family's approval. His father called me this morning to apologize and assure me there would be no retaliation. He's embarrassed his son forced this situation. Dante's voice hardened. And everyone else in the city understands now that you and Lily are untouchable. It won't happen again. Because they're afraid of you. Because they respect power and boundaries. Because they know I'll burn their world down if they threaten mine. He pulled her closer, his good arm wrapping around her waist. You don't have to be afraid anymore, Sophie. You're under my protection. That means something in this city. Sophie rested her forehead against his chest, careful of his injuries. She could hear his heartbeat, steady and strong. I'm still figuring out what I feel about all this. About you. About us. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. Even with one arm in a sling? Especially with one arm. I need you to open jars. Sophie laughed despite herself. That's what you're keeping me around for? Jar opening? That and other things. Dante's voice dropped lower. Like making me want to be better. Like giving me a reason to come home. Like reminding me what I'm protecting and why it matters. Sophie pulled back to look at him. You're a good man, Dante Russo. Even if you don't believe it. I'm a man who's done terrible things for what I thought were good reasons. I'm not sure that qualifies as good. You saved my daughter. You're protecting us. You're giving Lily the life she deserves. Sophie touched his face gently. Good and bad aren't that simple. Sometimes they live in the same person. Sometimes you have to judge people by their actions toward the ones they love. And my actions toward you? So far? Sophie smiled. Pretty good, if you ignore the whole getting shot thing. I'll try not to make a habit of it. They stood like that for a long moment, holding each other in the quiet of Dante's bedroom. Outside, Chicago glittered in the darkness. But in here, they were safe. They were together. They were home. 3 months passed. Lily thrived at Wellington Academy. Her asthma was under control with the new medications. She made friends, real friends, who came over for playdates in the gardens. She read voraciously, working her way through the library with Dante's guidance. She laughed more than Sophie had heard in years. And she called Dante Dad for the first time in February. It happened casually, over breakfast. Lily was telling a story about school and said, and then I told Emma that my dad knows everything about books, and kept talking like nothing significant had happened. But Dante had frozen, his coffee cup halfway to his mouth. Sophie watched emotions flicker across his face. Surprise, joy, pain, hope, all tangled, together. Your dad is honored, he'd said quietly. And your dad thinks you're the smartest reader in Chicago. Later in private, he'd cried. Sophie had held him while he shook with the force of emotions he'd kept locked away for 3 years. I didn't think I'd ever hear that again, he'd whispered. I didn't think I deserved to. You deserve it, Sophie had told him. You've earned it. By March, their routine was established. Breakfast as a family, Lily off to school. Sophie managing the estate with efficiency that impressed Mrs. Chen. Dante working in his office, handling business that Sophie didn't ask too many questions about. Dinner together, reading time in the library, Lily in bed by 8, Sophie and Dante talking late into the night about everything and nothing. They hadn't kissed, hadn't crossed that line, but the tension between them grew with each passing day. The casual touches that lingered, the way Dante watched her across the dinner table, the way Sophie's breath caught when he smiled. They were building something. Slowly, carefully, a foundation strong enough to support whatever came next. On a Saturday in late March, Dante announced he had a surprise. He drove them, he could drive now. His shoulder healed to a building in a nice neighborhood Sophie didn't recognize. "What is this?" she asked. "Your clinic." Dante pulled into the parking lot. "Or it will be. I bought the building last month. It's being renovated. I wanted your input on the design." Sophie stared at him. "My clinic? You're a nurse, Sophie. A good one. You should be working, using your skills. But I know you don't want to leave Lily for long hours." He gestured to the building. "So I thought a private clinic. You set the hours. You choose the patients. You decide how it operates. I'll fund it, but it's yours." Lily bounced in the back seat. "Mommy's going to have her own hospital?" "Not a hospital, baby. A clinic." Sophie couldn't breathe. Couldn't process. "Dante, this is I can't accept." "You can. You are." He took her hand. "You gave me back my life. Let me give you yours. Not as payment. As—" he struggled for words. "As proof that I see you. Not just as Lily's mother. Not just as household manager. As Sophie. The woman who wanted to be a nurse. Who helps people. Who deserves to do work that matters." Sophie looked at the building, imagining what it could be. A place where people like her, people struggling, barely making it, could get care. Where mothers didn't have to choose between their child's medication and rent. "I want to serve low-income families," she said. "Sliding scale fees. Free care for those who can't pay. Whatever you want. And I want to hire good people. Not just the cheapest. The best. Done. And I want—" Sophie turned to look at him, this man who kept giving her everything she didn't know how to ask for. "I want you to stop trying to buy my affection and just tell me what you promise. Want. What you really want. From me. From us." Dante was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I want you to stay. Forever. Not temporarily. I want to wake up and know you're down the hall. I want to have breakfast with Lily and plan our days and argue about what movie to watch. I want—" his voice roughened. "I want to kiss you. I've wanted to for months, but I was waiting for you to be ready. Waiting for this to feel real to you the way it feels real to me." "It feels real," Sophie whispered. "It's terrifying and complicated, and sometimes I lie awake wondering if I'm insane. But it's real." Are you guys going to kiss?" Lily's voice came from the back seat. "Because if you are, I'm closing my eyes." They both laughed. Dante squeezed Sophie's hand. "Rain check?" "Rain check," Sophie agreed. They toured the building, empty now, but Sophie could see potential in every room. Exam rooms, a small pharmacy, a waiting area that would feel welcoming, not institutional, an office where she could do paperwork and meet with patients. "When can we start renovations?" she asked. "They started last week. Should be done in 2 months. You'll be open by summer." Dante watched her move through the space, his expression soft. "You're already planning it. I can see it. Pediatrics, women's health, basic urgent care, maybe a social worker on staff to help families navigate resources." Sophie's mind raced with possibilities. This could really help people. That's the idea. That night, after Lily was asleep, Sophie found Dante in the library. He was reading in his favorite chair, a glass of whiskey beside him. He looked up when she entered, and something in her expression made him set down the book. "Sophie?" She crossed the room and kissed him. It was tentative at first, careful. Then Dante's good arm came around her waist, pulling her closer, and Sophie melted into him. The kiss deepened, 3 months of tension finally breaking. His hand tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shoulders. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Dante rested his forehead against hers. "I've been waiting to do that since the day you called me after the hospital. I've been wanting you to do that since you built Lily a window seat." Sophie smiled. "We're both terrible at this. Probably. But we're figuring it out." Dante kissed her again, softer this time. "Stay with me. Not in the suite down the hall. Here. With me. Be my partner." "My—" He stopped, searching for words. "Your what?" "My everything," he said simply. "You and Lily. You're my everything now." Sophie thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "Okay. Okay? Okay, I'll move into your room. Okay, we'll be partners. Okay to—" She took a breath. "Okay to whatever this is becoming." Dante pulled her into his lap, careful of his healing shoulder. "I'm going to make you so happy. I promise. No more safe houses. No more bullets. Just us. This life. This family. Can you promise that? No more danger?" "I can promise to minimize it. To keep you protected." To make choices that put you and Lily first. His eyes were serious. I can't promise perfect, but I can promise I'll try. That's enough. Sophie kissed him again. That's more than enough. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other in the library while Chicago hummed outside. Two broken people who'd found each other in fire and blood and 3-minute phone calls. Two people who'd built something impossible into something real. A family. Upstairs, Lily slept peacefully, dreaming of butterflies and window seats and a castle where she was safe. And for the first time in 5 years, Sophie stopped worrying about tomorrow, stopped calculating how many dollars were in her account, stopped waiting for the next disaster. She just breathed. Easy. Steady. Home. 6 months later, the grand opening of Chen Community Clinic drew a crowd. Local politicians, grateful families, reporters, documenting the story of a mafia boss's girlfriend opening a free clinic. Sophie hated the attention but understood it was part of the package. Dante stood beside her as she cut the ribbon, Lily between them holding the scissors with them. A family photo for the newspapers. A story of redemption and second chances. Your daughter stopped breathing, the reporters had written when the story first broke. Mafia boss. Arrived in 3 minutes, now they're changing lives together. Sensational. Dramatic. And essentially true. Inside, the clinic gleamed. Exam rooms equipped with everything Sophie needed. A pharmacy stocked with medications. A waiting room with toys and books. Her office with a window overlooking the street. On her desk, a framed photo. Sophie, Dante, and Lily at the park. The same park where Lily had collapsed, where Dante had saved her life, where everything had changed. Below the photo, a plaque. In memory of Alessia and Elena Russo. Love lives on. Dante saw it and his eyes grew wet. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. They're part of this too. Part of our story. Sophie took his hand. Part of our family. The first patient of the day was a young mother with a son who had asthma. Sophie examined the boy gently, prescribed new medications, and explained how to use the nebulizer. The mother cried with relief when Sophie told her there would be no charge. I don't know how to thank you, the mother said. You don't have to. Just take care of him. Love him. That's enough. After the woman left, Dante found Sophie in her office. You're going to change a lot of lives here. We're going to change lives, Sophie corrected. This is ours. Together. Together, Dante agreed. He pulled her close, kissing her gently. I love you. Have I mentioned that today? Only twice. You're slacking. I love you, he repeated. You and our daughter, my girls, my everything. I love you too. Sophie smiled. Now get out of here. I have patients to see. Bossy. You like it. I really do. Dante left, and Sophie returned to work. A line of patients waited, people who needed help, who needed care, who needed someone to fight for them the way Dante had fought for her. She'd run into fire once to save a stranger's child, and in return, she'd been given everything she never knew she needed. A home, a family, a partner, a purpose. And somewhere in the gardens of a mansion that used to feel like a mausoleum, a little girl with asthma laughed as she chased butterflies, breathing easy, completely safe, completely loved, completely home. The garden wedding was small, intimate, just family and the few people who mattered. Lily walked down the aisle first, 7 years old now, scattering rose petals with the seriousness of someone performing heart surgery. Her breathing was steady, her inhaler tucked safely in the pocket of her flower girl dress just in case, though she rarely needed it anymore. Sophie followed, wearing a simple ivory dress that Dante had cried over when he'd seen her that morning. Mrs. Chen dabbed her eyes. Vincent stood as Dante's best man, looking uncomfortable in his formal suit. Antonio had made the cake 3 tiers of chocolate because Lily had insisted. They said their vows under an arch covered in white roses. Dante's voice was steady, but his hands shook as he slid the ring onto Sophie's finger. You ran into fire for a stranger, he said quietly. And somehow you kept running straight into my life, my heart, my future. You gave me back everything I thought I'd lost. Hope, family, love. I promised to spend every day earning that gift. Sophie's voice cracked as she spoke. You saved my daughter's life in 3 minutes. Then you spent 2 years showing us what safety feels like, what love looks like, what home means. She touched his face gently. I choose you, today and every day after. My partner, my protector, my home. When they kissed, Lily cheered loudly enough to make everyone laugh. The reception was held in the conservatory where Sophie had first agreed to stay, the same room where Lily had played with the stuffed elephant, where everything had begun. Doctor, Romano made a toast, to the man who finally learned that living is more important than surviving. Mrs. Chen raised her glass. To the woman who taught this house how to be a home again. Lily, given permission to speak, stood on her chair. To my mom and dad, who love each other and me, and make the best family ever. Also, can I have more cake? The laughter was warm, real, the sound of healing. Later, as the sun set and fairy lights twinkled in the gardens, Sophie and Dante slow danced while Lily twirled with Vincent, standing on his shoes. Did you ever imagine this? Sophie asked. That day in the park? I imagined keeping you alive, keeping her safe. Dante pulled her closer. I didn't dare imagine being happy. That felt like asking too much. And now? Now I'm married to the most stubborn, brave, infuriating woman in Chicago. Now I have a daughter who argues with me about homework and leaves books everywhere and calls me dad like it's the most natural thing in the world. His voice roughened. Now I wake up and think, this is real. This is mine. This is worth every scar. Sophie looked across the garden, where the Chen Community Clinic's second location would break ground next month, where the Elena and Alessia Russo Foundation was funding pediatric care across 3 states, where good was rising from the ashes of violence and loss. We did something impossible, she said. We built a family from broken pieces. You built it. I just followed where you led. Liar. We built it together. Sophie kissed him softly. And we're going to keep building. The clinic expansion. Maybe another child adopted this time if you're open to it. Dante's eyes widened. Another child? Lily's been asking for a sibling. And I've been thinking about all those kids in the FINGS system who need families, who need someone to run into fire for them. Sophie smiled. What do you think? I think you're going to make me cry at my own wedding. Dante blinked rapidly. Yes. God. Yes. Let's build it bigger. Let's fill this house with noise and chaos and love. Lily appeared then, tugging on Dante's sleeve. Dad, Vincent says there's sparklers. Can we do sparklers? After dark, princess. Another hour. But I want sparklers now. Patience is a virtue, Dante said solemnly. That's what you always say when you mean no. Lily crossed her arms. Mom, tell him. Sophie laughed. Nice try. You can wait an hour. Lily huffed but skipped away, already distracted by the promise of sparklers later. Dante watched her go, his expression soft. She's so much like you. Stubborn, fearless. Absolutely certain she can negotiate anything. She gets it from both of us. Sophie rested her head on his shoulder. Thank you. For what? For being brave enough to save us. And then brave enough to let us save you back. Dante held her tighter as Chicago's lights began to glow in the distance. Around them, their family celebrated. Their impossible, beautiful, hard-won family. I'd do it again, he whispered. Every time. In every lifetime. 3 minutes, or 3 hours, or 30 years. I'd always choose you. Sophie smiled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, home. Good, she said. Because you're stuck with us now. Best fate I could imagine. They danced as night fell and sparklers lit up the garden. As Lily laughed and Mrs. Chen cried happy tears and Vincent actually smiled. As their story continued writing itself in love and light and second chances. A mafia boss who'd learned mercy. A nurse who'd learned to trust. A child who'd learned to breathe. A family built from fire. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.